If you thought this DIY track saw was a big hit, then this one is gonna blow your mind. Just imagine one track with a dual purpose that sticks better to just about any surface and that can cut straight and accurate cuts all day long without even thinking about it. So let me show you how easy it is to actually build this. For this track saw, you're also gonna need one laminate floorboard. Now this one is about 7mm thick. I'll leave a link in the description just to show you what these look like in case you're not sure. And then you also need a piece of aluminium flat bar the same length as the floorboard. This one in particular is 32 by 3mm, so do take note of the width because that's going to be important for the next step. So let's start off with the circular saw. So I've gone ahead and I've trimmed off all of these edges, so that's now nice and straight. And then you'll see on this side we still got this lip sitting here. So for the circular saw, we're actually going to use this side, so we need to flip this around like so, and then you can grab your circular saw and just sit it along the edge like this. Using my speed square, I can keep everything perfectly lined up, and then I'm just going to scoot the base of the saw over this way so that there's a tiny gap between the blade and the edge of the board. All you need to do is make sure that the blade guard still rides on top of the board like this. And now we can make a mark on the side of the saw, measure it, and then transfer that across the length of this board. And then we're going to mount our aluminium flat bar on these marks that we just made. Now to keep this in place, I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and I am going to screw this down as well. So we'll start with that. It's just going to make things a lot easier keeping it in place. When it comes to screwing this down, I'm going to do this by hand so I can actually feel the screw biting into the wood. Because these boards are so thin, the screws actually poked out the bottom just a little bit, but it's no big deal. I just knocked them down with my angle grinder, and it's not going to make a difference. We're going to cover those anyway. For our next trick, we're going to make this saw run absolutely straight every single time instead of accidentally wandering off this side. To do that, you're going to need a guide rule, and they typically look like this. They usually come with the saw. If you don't have one anymore, you can get one for about $5. Normally, you would use a guide like this where this edge would reference another straight edge like this. In our case, we're going to flip this upside down, and you're going to need another piece of flat bar. Now we're going to mount this way, and this is exactly why I said you need to make sure that you get something that's wide enough so when you drill these holes, it's going to sit somewhere in the middle and not close to the edge. I've gone ahead and made a little notch in here so that can slot on like this. So it's nice and flush with the bottom here. And if I bring it up to this edge, you can see that the front of the saw and this edge lines up perfectly. Now what that's going to do is give me enough support area on the back so that as the saw moves through, it's going to keep everything nice and straight. Now that the track saw side is done, we can flip it over and start working on the trim router. Trim routers like these do come with their own guide, which looks similar, kind of something like this. So this part attaches to the trim router and that just slides in and out. Now you could go with the aluminium as we've done here, but you could also use something like a hardwood, which would basically just attach like this, and that'll be your guide as well. So I'm going to keep going with the aluminium like this, but feel free to do whatever works for you. For this one, I'm going to go a little bit longer just to give me that extra support so that I can start right here at the edge if I need to. So I'm going to make this one about 14 inches wide, which is about 355mm. Now we can go ahead and make the cut on this side for our trim router to give us that nice straight edge. At this point, I do not yet have that non-slip base fitted, so I do need to use clamps just to make this initial cut. And I'm going to use a 1/4 inch downcut spiral bit like this one. And it's worth noting that the diameter of the bit that you're using now is going to set the edge of this track for future cuts. Now we're going to make this thing stick like a booger to the underside of a school desk. And for that, we're going to use these rubber strips. Now, this one is simply called a natural insertion strip. So It basically just looks like this. This one's 100 millimeters wide by, I think this roll's about 5 meters long. So I'll link you to this one in particular, as well as an alternative that comes with a sticky back that you can just peel and stick. I'm using double-sided tape to fix this strip in place, starting on the trim router side of the track. And I'm just lining it up as best I can before I'm switching over to the circular saw side of the track. Now, don't stress it if you can't line it up exactly, because we can easily trim this off with a utility knife after the next step. Now, here comes the cool part. You're going to take your saw and you're going to set it up on this side to start making a cut that way. And you're going to set it deep enough so that you basically just create a score line into your sacrificial board underneath. And what that's going to do is give you an edge that is perfectly aligned with the inside of your saw blade. This black edge is what you're going to use to line up your cuts with in the future. And obviously, this is part of your non-slip base. Now, the beauty of building it this way is that if you ever change the blade on your circular saw for, say, a wider blade, you're basically just going to cut into the black rubber strip and not the board itself. So when you change back to a thinner blade, all you need to do is just peel the rubber strip, move it out a bit, and then cut a new line. That way, in theory, you never have to rebuild this board ever again. How cool is that? I've not yet seen a dual DIY track saw quite as compact and lightweight as this one. But if you do prefer something a little bit more basic, then do check out this video up here. In the meantime, check out the description if you do need a little bit more guidance on how to build something like this. I might have something down there by the time I've uploaded this video. And in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.